Hello, neighbor. How you doing? This is Novels and Bits podcast, and I am your host, Chizoba Katie. I am recording this on the 4th of February. Happy New Month. Now, I just finished reading the On Honeymooners, and I just really needed to talk about it. I would definitely see a ramble about it on social media for sure. But this book knocked the wind out of me. It's supposed to be a rom-com, hilarious, silly, but it's so mature. You get, and I think it makes sense considering the characters are in their 30s, okay? So it should not be childish. However, it still knocked me off, in terms of, whoa, this is really refreshing. The vindicative person in me when the guy messed up. Not like he didn't cheat or anything, just that he didn't believe her because she has this reputation of being a pessimist, she's full of pessimism normally. So a situation like that came up and she's telling the truth about something. And he's like, yo, it's you're reading the whole thing into it. And, it caused a lot of hurt. And eventually when the truth came out that she's right and everything, he was sorry. But she has already found her own peace at that time and just decided, okay, I'm just going to be by myself, support my sister, do all the things I'm doing. I'm liking my version of myself. And I'm like, yo, I like you here too. I mean, if this story ends with all of you just kind of being on your own, it's fine. Like, I didn't find myself saying, hey, yo, you guys should get together and that's the only way we'll have a happy ending. I was totally fine with both of them just being separate and running their own thing, just like that. What does that say about me? Okay. So to anyone who's listening and is wondering, hey, am I not supposed to be listening to the last part of From Lord and Ash? Yeah, you're supposed to. And you're going to get that in a moment. I just needed to unburden this. So this is also a book recommendation because if I'd known it was going to be this good, I might have done the story on the podcast. But I think it's great to read because I finished reading this book and I read it in maybe 5 hours or 6 hours tops. If you consider that I started yesterday, I just read it for like less than an hour, maybe 30 minutes yesterday, and I dug right back into it today. That's all I did all morning, besides test people on social media. So it took me maybe some almost 4 hours today, and so maybe you can read the book in 6 hours. It's not that much. Or maybe it's just my speed. I'm used to reading books that are so lengthy that this felt like, oh, it's small, okay. And then I didn't have to summarize this to tell it. But I think I'm going to tell the Christina Lauren novel on this show. And Christina Lauren, I'm just finding out, is actually two besties, friends, lifelong partners, like not partners, come together to write these books. And it's filled with so much heartwarming family moments. How you can have a big family that you're annoyed at 1 minute, but you just feel so wrapped up and secure in their love the next. I love so many aspects of this book that even maybe there's a few aspects of it that I don't really like, the whole gay portrayal thing. I'm just like, that one's people's business. I'm still gonna love what I love, okay? And also I love that it's not outrightly explicit. I highly recommend it. The On Honeymooners by Christina Lauren. So now that I'm done raving about this, and you too, you are done listening to me rave about this, let's get into the final section of From Blood and Ash. So when we left off in the last episode, we saw that Poppy was taken to a cell because she was attacking everybody, and Hawke ordered that they take her there so that she doesn't hurt people anymore because he doesn't want anybody to hurt her. But if she keeps hurting other people, they would retaliate, right? So he asked them to take her to a cell. Now, remember that Poppy was just dealt the betrayal of a lifetime, finding out that the person she's come to love and, possibly even contemplating a future with that man has been lying to her the entire time. He killed her God. He might be the reason why Victor is dead. The man that was like a dad to her. He brought her out of Macedonia only to bring her right into the center of people who hate her, who call her a thing. Do you understand? Who do not see her as a human being. So right now, she is so angry. She wants to make him bleed. And she's still denying the truth of, is he not? He's walking with a dark one. He did all this to me. You get, that's where we left off in the last episode. Now, also, when they take her to the cell and she sees it, she's fighting to leave, but she's eventually dragged into it and shackled. She feels panic. She's asking herself, how did I end up here? There's this desperation. She's like, oh, I know what led me here. It's the desperation to connect to someone and feel alive. That's what led me to this. The dark one ordered him to get close to me. She feels anger, sorrow. She's like, yeah, even if he was asked to get close to me, even if that were his others, he didn't have to get as close as he did under my skin, into my heart. The whole sleeping with her and co. And for the first time, she's grateful Tony stayed behind. Like, that is her lady's maid that initially she was insisting she wanted Tony to come along because she wanted to hold on to something familiar. She's grateful Tony didn't come because it's very likely Tony would have been dead as well, just like the other guards who came out with her, with Poppy. Poppy is not planning to wait around here for the Dark One to come. It feels like certain death, like the First Maiden, because she was told that the First Maiden was killed by the Dark One. And she's like, oh my gosh, that feels like that's the same thing that would happen to me. So she's looking for anyhow to escape. Now, the guard called Delano, he's not really a guard, he's a wolven. He can turn into a wolf, and he's right now in his physical form. That he's the person that Hawke put in charge of guarding Poppy. So he brings her cheese and bread in his sack. There is no stew. He didn't bring any stew so that she wouldn't throw it at him. And he tells her that the cheese and bread is not poisoned because Hawke said no harm is to come to her. So it's this. Poppy now asks him, why wait? The Dark One is going to kill me eventually. Now, Delano has pale blue eyes, all the wolf in there. And those pale blue eyes meets Poppy's green ones. And now says, if the prince wanted you dead, you'd already be dead. You should eat. She registers that Delano called the Dark One the prince. She's thinking to herself, just because the descendants believes Castile is the rightful heir didn't make it through. Like Prince Castile, that's what they call him, right? Now, Hawke comes and dismisses Delano. He now starts. This is the same Hawke that dealt her this heavy hand of betrayal. He now goes, Poppy. Poppy shudders. He now says, what am I to do with you? With Hawke's secret of being an Atlantean, with that secret out, Hawke doesn't hide his speed and his keen smelling senses. He immediately he's so fast, the way he just comes up in front of her. She doesn't even see him move. And he's like, you're hot. Because his senses have blood. His sense have blood. You get. Now, Hawke admits to finding out what happens in the Duke's lessons. That he's even the one that shoved the cane through the Duke. But he wasn't responsible for the overall attack on the castle. He knows of the gash in her stomach. Asks Delano, because Delano is still within earshot, to bring in supplies and forces Poppy to receive treatment because she has a gash in her stomach that if left unattended could get infected and it would be very bad for her because she's immortal. Now, in the middle of it, he gives her history lessons and now starts telling her the Craven were a fault. That the creation of the Craven is the fault of the Atlanteans, the monsters and the mist, the war. What has become of this land? You, us. It all started with an incredibly desperate, foolish act of love many, many centuries before the War of Two Kings. Apparently, King Malik loved a mortal woman, and she was mortally wounded. Some people say that she was poisoned by Queen Eluana, because Malik is Queen Eluana's husband, and he was, whichever way. Just get this. King Malik was married to Queen Eluana, and he was cheating on her. He had a history of being unfaithful. If you're hearing a baby cry in the background, please ignore it. This is, all of them things you get to experience when you're recording at home on a Saturday or any other day, but you're in Nigeria and you don't own a studio. I'm just going to try to remove the noise as much as possible, but let this not detract us from the storytelling. Please, no, no, no. Back to the history lesson that Hawke is giving Poppy. He's explaining to her that this whole thing started when King Malik, he was married, by the way, but he has a history of being unfaithful. Eventually, he got entangled with this mortal woman that apparently he loved her, actually loved her, and the woman got mortally wounded. Somebody poisoned her. Now, determined to save her, he made her into a vampire. That is, he ascended her, that through the forbidden act of ascension. So Ishbet, that's King Malik's lover, was the first to ascend. Note, your first king and queen. That's what he's telling Poppy. So Ishbet became the first vampire. How the ascension happens. Malik drank from her, only stopping once he felt her heart begin to fail. And then he shared his blood with her. Now, perhaps if your act of ascension wasn't so well guarded, the finer details would not come as a surprise to you. Now, he continues telling her that we Atlanteans were born nearly mortal and remain so until the culling. That is when they start changing. It's called the culling, C-U-L-L-I-N-G. The fangs appear, lengthening only when we feed, and they change in other ways. They age slower than mortals, and if they take care, they can live for thousands of years. It's also harder to kill an Atlantean than it is to kill an Ascended. It's easier to kill an Ascended. Hawke was born after the war. His since 2 centuries come and go. King Malik, yes, created the first vampire. They are a part of all Atlanteans, but they're not like Atlanteans because daylight doesn't affect Atlanteans, but it affects the vampire that is ascended. So to this, he also now asks Poppy, tell me, which of the ascended have you ever seen in the daylight? So to this, she now answers, they do not work in the sun because the gods do not. That is how they honor them. So this Hawke now says, now how convenient, for them to say, make up that. They also need to feed. And by feed, I'm talking about blood. This is Hawke telling Poppy. They need to do so frequently to live, to prevent whatever mortal wounds or illnesses they suffered before they ascended from returning. They cannot procreate, not after the ascension, and many experience blood loss when they feed, often killing mortals in the process. Mortal blood does not offer Atlanteans any real value. Atlanteans can only feed from Atlanteans. So that whole thing of Atlanteans, when they feed a mortals, turn them into craven, is not true, because an Atlantean does not need mortal blood, only needs Atlantean blood. Wolvens don't even need to feed at all. Delano and Kieran and Co, they don't need to feed at all. But Atlanteans do. Atlantean blood can heal a mortal without turning them. Something a vampire can do, their blood cannot heal. But the most important difference is the creating of the craven. An Atlantean has never created one. The vampires have. And in case you haven't been following along, this is Hawke to Poppy. The vampires are what you know as the ascended. Poppy is not like that. The ascended would never work with an Atlantean. Hawke now says, did I misspeak? I don't believe I did. I said they are using an Atlantean for their ascensions, not working with one. When King Malek's peers discovered what he'd done, he lifted the laws that forbade the act of ascending. As more vampires were created, many were unable to control their bloodlust. They drained many of their victims, creating the pestilence known as a craven, who swept across the kingdom like a plague. The Queen of Atlantia, Queen Elwana, tried to stop it. She made the act of ascension forbidden once more and ordered all vampires destroyed in an act to protect mankind. The vampires revolted. Now, the vampires revolting is what led to the War of the Two Kings. Mortals were fighting vampires alongside Atlanteans. It's not mortals and vampires fighting Atlanteans. No, it was Atlanteans and mortals fighting the vampires. That's the War of the Two Kings. Now, King Malek was overthrown, divorced, and exiled. Queen Ilwana remarried, and the new king, Dania, pulled their forces back, called their people home, and ended the war that was destroying the world. So to this, Poppy now asks, so what happened to Malek and Ishbet? Hawke explains, your records say that Malek was defeated in battle, but the truth is, no one knows. He and his mistress simply disappeared. The vampires gained control of the remaining lands, anointing their own king and queen, Jalara and Ileana, and renamed it the Kingdom of Solace. They call themselves the Ascended, use our gods, who'd long since gone to sleep, as a reason for why they became the way they did. In the hundreds of years that have followed since, they've managed to scrub the truth from history, that the vast majority of mortals actually fought alongside the Atlanteans against the common threat of vampires. So Poppy now says, none of that sounds believable. Hawke continues, I imagine it is hard to believe that you belong to a society of murderous monsters who take their taught daughters and sons during the rite to feed upon. The vampires need a food source, princess, one that would not rouse suspicion. What better way than to convince an entire kingdom to hand over their children? Under the pretense of honoring the gods, they've created a religion around it such that brothers will turn on brothers if any of them refuse to give away their child. They have fooled an entire kingdom, used the fear of what they have created against the people. And that's not all. You ever think it's strange how many young children die overnight from a mysterious blood disease, like the Tulis family, who lost their first and second children to it? Remember that couple that were pleading that they keep their third child? Not every ascended can stick to a strict diet. You don't want to accept what I'm saying, even as logical as it sounds, because it means your brother is one of them. And the queen who cared for you has slaughtered thousands. Poppy fights him. He doesn't want to hurt her. Poppy, I've killed before, but not that poor girl. Body was desecrated, that basically they drained her, killed, snapped her neck, and left her clothes around her hips. Hawke had nothing to do with that. Hawke suspects it's either the Duke that did it or Lord Maxine. This actually makes sense to Poppy because she remembers the jasmine scent she found at the scene of the crime, and also the jasmine scent that Lord Maxine wears. Those things connected, but she didn't understand what it meant. But now it makes sense. If ascended drain people dry of blood, it makes sense that Lord Maxine did such a thing, slept with the woman, like literally FOK'd her, and after that snapped her neck. Lord Maxine he's capable of such a thing. So it makes sense to her, but she doesn't say this to Hawke because she's still processing everything, okay? Poppy lets it known to Hawke that she's never going to stop fighting him. He knows, and that feels him. And she senses that he actually admires her for fighting him. She calls me a monster, and he tells her that I wasn't always a monster. I was made this way, the branding on his tie. He tells her that you should have noticed that it was the royal crest branded on my skin. Do you want to know how I have such intimate knowledge of what happens during your ascension, Poppy? Your effing ascension? How I know what you don't? Because I was held in one of those temples for 5 decades, and I was sliced and cut and fed upon. My blood was poured into golden chalices that the second sons and daughters drank after being drained by the queen or the king or another ascendant. I was a goddamn cattle, and I wasn't just used for food. I provided all sorts of entertainment. I know exactly what it's like to not have a choice. It was your queen who branded me. And if it hadn't been for the foolish bravery of another, I would still be there. That is how I got that scar. So Hawke now tells her that both I and the prince, we don't want to see you harmed because the ascended are still holding the true heir. They captured him when the true heir freed Hawke. So it confirms to Poppy that to Hawke, she's a means to an end, that he would hand her over to his abusers to free Prince Malik. You can choose not to believe anything I've said, but you should, so that what I'm about to say doesn't come as a shock to you. I'll be leaving shortly to meet up with King Daniel of Atlantia to tell him that I have you. Yes, the king lives, so does Queen Iluana, the parents of the one you call the Dark One, and Prince Malik. There's a promise she'll be moved to better accommodations, you get. So he leaves her there because he wants to go meet up with these people. And when we read his own story from his own perspective, Hawke is actually going to meet up with King Daniel to convince King Daniel not to send Poppy back in pieces. He's even determined to fight the king, to risk treason to protect Poppy at this point. But she doesn't know that. Because all Atlantia wants at this moment is war. And Hawke is trying to find the most peaceable way around it, which is just, how about we kidnap the thing that this kingdom finds most important and swap it to get our prince back? You get. So we know that this story definitely is a whole lot bigger than what Hawke is thinking, because he's thinking in simple terms. And what pisses me off is that his parents know the bigger picture of why this whole thing is happening, and the truth doesn't come out until much later. I'm probably going to give you gist and pieces of it after we're done with this story. But for now, let's just be all you know. After Hawke is gone, Poppy's thinking on everything he said, and her head hurts. If the dissenters knew this, it explains why they're revolting. I mean, the whole thing, it's making sense. This also means every ascended knows the truth, and none of them are helping out at all. So Delano and another Atlantean, Neil, come to take Poppy to new lodgings. In the process of all of it, Jericho and others arrive. They want to use the absence of the prince. They say the absence of the prince. They didn't say the absence of Hawke. And that reference confuses Poppy, who knows it's Hawke, not the prince, that removed Jericho's hand. So Jericho referring to Hawke, at least that's what's connecting in Poppy's head. Referring to Hawke as the prince is not like, wait, in your head, you must get it all wrong here. But the point is, because Hawke is not around, they want to kill Poppy. Yes, he's going to be very angry, but they're like, yeah, well, he'll get over it. Mr. Tillis is there. That's a Mr. Tillis that pleaded that he should keep their third child. You know, Hawke was able to help them get away from Macedonia, and he brought them here to New Haven where it's safe. But this person is so hell-bent on revenge that he's still like, ooh, maiden, you're part of those people. I'm going to be part of those that kill you to exact my revenge. You get. And this is not going to end up well. It's not going to end up well. And things are about to get really nasty. Really, really nasty, people. So the conversation that Poppy winds up having before many things go down is making some things clear. They're talking, and one of them says she's the effing maiden Delano. She was raised as an ascended by the damn queen herself, practically. The ascended took my son in the middle of the god's damn night. So Neil now is trying to reason with these angry people, but she did not take your son. They continue talking. Jericho is the one talking. I get that the prince wants to use her to free his brother, but you and I both know Malik is most likely dead. And if he's not, it probably isn't a good thing. He's got to be so effed up by now that he has no idea who he is. The Ascended also slaughtered Delano's entire den. They've committed so many atrocities. They've killed so much. They're all bloodthirsty. The Ascended have done so much evil, and they want to take all of this out on Poppy. They don't even stop to think maybe if Poppy is also a victim of all of this. No. She represents a symbol. In the middle of the ensuing fight, everything happens suddenly. Neil throws her a sword to defend herself. Poppy fights as much as she can, but she's down. Because remember, she's still recovering from a wound, a stomach wound and everything, and she's even tired. Jericho will keep to his word. That's what he tells her, that he's going to bathe in her blood and feast on her entrails. People are cheering at this thing. the other people there. It's only Neil and Delano, terribly outnumbered. There's so many people out for Poppy's blood. Now, one final blow that will take her out. That's all that's left. She's basically one final blow away from being taken out, from dying right now. But it doesn't come because Kieran somehow comes into the mix. He now shouts an order, get the prince now. That's the last thing she remembers, and she passes out. Kieran is lifting Poppy off the floor. For some reason, she's not feeling any pain. She's hearing Hawke's voice because he's not meant to be around. So that means he's probably back from where he went to, and he's pleading with her to open her eyes. Now, at this point, Poppy has been clawed into, stabbed by Mr. Tillis. Her clothes are shredded. She's dying, but Hawke says he's not going to let her die. He bites into his wrist and asks her to drink. She resists, saying that she doesn't want to become a monster. And he's begging her, please. She also hears Kieran's voice warn him, saying Castile. But right now, she is dying. So that is not even important right now. What's important is her life gets saved, right? So he tells her, you either make the choice to drink or I'll make it for you. She inhales the scent of his blood and it reminds her of citrus in the snow, fresh and that. Hawke demands he looks at her. And for some reason, she doesn't have control. She can't fight against it. Normally, someone says, look at me, you can be like, oh no. But right now, she feels herself obeying. His voice is everywhere. A drop of it falls into her mouth. It's sweet in her mouth. Feels like complete awakening. She drinks, and it feels like water springs is blooming in and around her. She's greedy and keeps drinking that same blood she was resisting until Hawke breaks free. She feels boneless. Time passes, but Hawke calls her and he slowly comes into focus. All the new ones are gone and they didn't leave any scars. He tells her that he actually had to compel her to drink. Not everybody has that ability, not every Atlantean, but he does. It's one of the things I'll call during maturity. It's actually the first time he's used it on her. They're in a bedchamber. They needed privacy for all of this. So Kieran didn't want him to do this because it's forbidden. So she asked about that. I heard him telling you not to do this. So you can now say, yeah, it's forbidden. She now asks him, will I turn into a vampire? He assures her that she's not going to. She's only healed. And Delano and Neil, she asked about them. They'll be fine too because she actually helped them down there. There's a time somebody was supposed to claw into Delano, deal him a final blow. Poppy, instead of defending herself, was focused on also saving Delano. You get? So that was a kind act she made in the midst of this whole people are betrayers. But for some reason, she still cared enough to save their asses, okay? Poppy feels Hawke everywhere inside her. His blood is making her crazy with lust. Although he's saying her, yeah, that's one of the side effects of it, that feeding can cause a high. She's begging him for release and she seeks it herself with her hands instinctively. As she's trying to rub herself, masturbation style. He has to hold her hands in place. He can't do what she's asking. The whole, oh, take me, that kind of thing. Not because right now she's not herself. It's a lost haze. She's going to hate him again. She's going to hate him more if he does what she's asking. Because that would be like taking advantage. He tells her, I'm not a good man, but I'm trying right now. So when she feels more solid, like some of those feelings pass away, Hawke informs her that everybody who hurt her, he's going to make them pay. They're his supporters, yes, but their need for vengeance was too strong. Yes, there are others like those people, which means Poppy is not safe here. As for her, yes, he does plan to use her to batter Malik's freedom from the queen. But what she doesn't know is that Hawke at this point already knows I ain't Leighton. I'm not letting this babe out of my sight. I'm gonna have to figure out how to, keep her and still get my brother. He doesn't say any of these things to her because at this moment he's still figuring it out. But this moment, her heart is lurching so painfully in her chest that you know how bad these people are, yet you want to give me back to them. You want to give me to them, yeah. Poppy realizes, wait, I do remember that Kieran called you Castile. So everything now starts clicking, like how he silenced her from calling his name during lovemaking. How everyone obeys him. He does like, yo, move, and everybody's like moving. So it's like, yo, okay. Kieran also called him Hawke, like some kind of joke sometime before. His sadness too over his brother makes sense. Oh, your brother is the one you're trying to get back. Anguish explodes inside him. She hits at him until he holds her by her side. She is now telling him, you don't care about me. You just want to use me. You're the dark one. And she's crying and she's angry. She needs space away from him because the longer she's here, she knows it's going to be harder for her to remember that she's not special to him and that he has blood on his hands and that she cares for him despite he's betrayed her twice. She feels panic. She needs to get away. He's holding her around the waist. Her hand comes across the dagger of the bloodstone knife that's lying somewhat close there. She stabs him in the heart with it. Blood drips from the side of his mouth. He's shocked that, whoa, you stabbed me in the heart. And she's sorry, but she actually stabbed him to kill him. She stabbed him and she's crying about it. And she really is. And she runs out of the room into the snow. She has no idea where to go. She's not even dressed for the weather. She calculates he's dead right now and that he died by her hands. She feels sorrow. But she tells herself, I had to do it. I had to do it. It's so bad, but I had to do it. I had to kill him. He deserved it. Everything he's done. And she's crying. Now, sometime later, let's say 10 minutes into all of this, even though she's not really quite taking note of the time, but sometime later, she feels hands around her waist, pulling her back into a chest, smelling of lush spice and pine. She senses his rage and anguish, and that mirrors what she's feeling in that moment. He now tells her, an Atlantean, unlike a woven or an ascended, can't be killed by a stab to the heart. He's growling, yanking her head farther back. If you wanted to kill me, you should have aimed for the head, princess. But what's yet? You forgot. She now asks, forgot what? So he replies that this was real. When we see things from Hawke's perspective, let me quickly give it. Hawke definitely did not expect the stabbing. And he was angry. He was so angry, about this thing. He would have actually gone after her faster. He was licking blood. He was really wounded. He pulled out the dagger and, bloodstone doesn't really kill an Atlantean. It can hurt them, but can't kill them. So the heart wound started healing, not fast enough because he's lost blood. So feeding would actually help him heal faster. So Kieran comes into the room, sees this, and Kieran is so angry. Like he's ready to, at that moment, tear Poppy to pieces for hurting their prince, right? Hawke actually has to take some precious minutes calming Kieran down and saying, don't worry, I'm going to go after her myself. And everything is hurting at this moment. He's so angry. And right now, because he's lost blood, he's in that state of an animal trying to find a prey. So that's why it's easier for him to just lock all his senses to find her. That is Poppy in the woods. He is so angry and he needs to feed right now. And he's even thinking to punish her because half his mind is like, should I just, kind of wreck her neck, snap her neck and be over this? So the whole biting into her neck, like sinking his fangs in her neck, is a whole impulse thing. It wasn't planned. He's angry. You get. So that is what happens here right now. Going back to Poppy's own side of things, besides initial pain, it's not unpleasant. When he pulls back, he looks at her in disbelief. He can't believe it. He should have known. Because there's something he just realizes. Whoa, her blood tastes like power. It actually is valuable to me. It doesn't taste like a regular mortal's blood that can't do anything for an Atlantean. It's blood that can actually sustain me. Oh, this lady is Atlantean one way or the other, which explains why the Ascended probably kept her. They want to use her as the cattle, to make more Ascended. So that's the things clicking in his head right now. She doesn't know this yet, and I'm kind of spoiling it for you, but I think you already kind of suspect. So I'm kind of saying what's in your mind already. I'm echoing it. This is what happens when you read to find a series and you're telling someone about it, like kind of combining all the series, to explain the present action. He is on her the next thing. They're kissing, he's devouring her, and she's doing the same. And neither of them is holding back. They're in the snow, they're outdoors. Anish, she doesn't understand, is driving them into this. Next thing, they're pulling apart the clothes, the buttons fly, it's his wrecking, her already torn shirt in the snow. Both of them are in the snow right now, outdoors. I think it's important to see where this madness is happening. But then it comes that moment where he's supposed to sink himself inside her, the whole make love scene thing. But he's like, I'm not going to do that until you actually say my name. Like you call me Castile. Acknowledge who's inside you. She's angry. Like, no, you cannot blackmail me with that one. She's trying to get away, angry. But then her motion of trying to get away from him brings her slamming down on him. The way she turns around, she kind of sinks down on him instead. So he's all the way inside her to the hilt. You get. Now, by the time the heat of passion is over, only confusion is lingering. But she doesn't feel any shame, any regrets. And it's crazy. Like, yo, what's this madness that just happened? Okay, now, when everything is said and done, there's a problem. What clothes are we going to wear back? Because he tore her clothes off her. So she can't even wear anything back right now. Her trousers is basically falling down. And his shirt, because she stabbed him through the shirt, it has that tear from where the knife went through. And there's only one button remaining on his own trousers because we basically ripped everything apart. You get. His chest right now has pink skin from where she stabbed it, just the pink skin showing its healing. She actually got his heart good. She stabbed it good. His body repairs immediately, and it also helped that he fed on her, her blood too is helping him recover fast. So Poppy, despite everything that just happened, the whirlwind of emotions has to be angry at him. She still reaches for that line, that pink scar in his chest where she stabbed him, that place that is already healing. She feels, oh gosh, this guy's in pain. And she takes that, she feeds her emotions into that pain so that she takes away his pain. And he feels relieved because he's actually in such pain, forgets all this is maneuvering. He's actually in such pain. But she takes it away and he instantly starts breathing his ear. And he looks at her with wonder and says, I should have known. Know why they wanted you so badly that they made you the maiden. She can't really walk in the snow, so he carries her in his arms. He's taking her home to Atlantia. There's something else. He was drawn to her beyond intrigue. He could have grabbed her and left. There are so many chances to, but he didn't because part of him felt we've always known each other, even though they have not. So there has to be some kind of destiny or connection there. That's the only explanation. And maybe because the Atlantean part in her is calling to the Atlantean part in him. Perhaps people make themselves scarce when Hawke carries Poppy back, you get, or Prince Castile right now as we know him. They make themselves scarce, and Kieran too just looks the other way. Castile carries Poppy into the room. That's his own bed chambers, the bed chambers where she stabbed him. Thankfully, Kieran has cleaned up the blood and most of the things. Poppy asks Hawke, is Atlantia even real? Kieran is in the room temporarily with them. So beyond the Scotos Mountains, where there is not supposed to be anything else, at least that's what Poppy has known all her life, Atlantia exists there. The wastelands used to be merely an outpost, but Atlantia exists. And this is something that history scraps. So human beings don't even think about, oh, let's escape to Atlantia. You get, nah. Now Maid feels of the bathtub. And still, in Poppy's head, it's busy. Dots are connecting. She's like, yo, it's true. I've never actually seen third and fourth sons and daughters after they take them during the rites. People like the Duke and Maxine receiving blessing of gods was strange to her because these people are vile. Ascended never fought Craven, even though the Ascended are faster and stronger. Granted, yes, her and Ka still are enemies. She represents the evil of Solis and she's lost people because of him. But then, people like Ian that is so gentle and kind is an Ascended. What about her? What were they planning to do with her? Cass must know something. She knows, at this moment in the book, she knows she is madly in love with Castile. Does Castile Hawke knows that from his own POV? No. But he knows he cares about her like a lunatic. That he can't let her out of his sight. But she knows already at this point she loves him. Although none of them is going to say this for a while. Like, really while. But regardless that she's aware of, I love him and co, she's thinking they're not going to work. More importantly, he hasn't even claimed that they're anything. So who is she to push for anything when he hasn't? She's thinking of what next to do when she falls asleep in the tub. She just had bathing there by herself after the tub was filled for her. The next thing, she hears Kieran calling her name. She's in the tub, butt naked. Kieran actually came in because he kept knocking and nobody was answering and he was worried, so he came in and found her in the tub. Kieran is now saying Cassie isn't going to want you in dirty water catching cold. She doesn't care what he wants. Now, that's what she tells Kieran. And Kieran now says he should because he wants you, even though he knows better, even though he knows it will end in yet another tragedy. She has a brief conversation with Kieran, who tells her that where he comes from, scars are actually a sign of resilience and strength. Not like soulless where it's looked at as a flaw, you get. Poppy, she keeps sleeping a lot, and Kaz is there when she awakes. She senses his confusion and conflict. Remember, she can sense emotions. Initially, it just started with her just sensing pain and taking away pain. But the gift has been evolving, so she's starting to feel other emotions people are feeling. So he tells her, oh yeah, let's go eat. She's like, I'm not going to eat with you. He now tells her, I won't let you weaken or starve yourself because you're mad. And I do get it. I get why you're upset. Why you want to fight me on everything, every step of the way. I want you to, princess. I enjoy it. To this, she tells him, you're twisted. He tells her, never said I wasn't. So fight me. Argue with me. See if you can actually injure me next time. I dare you. She just looks at him in horror. There's something wrong with you. And let me tell you, Castile is a bit of a psycho. They're like one sick couple I actually enjoy reading and I'm rooting for. And I'm like, I did not know I was into this type of thing until I read this book. I did not know I was into this type of thing, honest be told. Castile informs Poppy that, listen, me asking you to come, let's share a meal together. Eating with you is my way of showing my people that you have my protection and you're not going to be confined to your room anymore. Now, Poppy wants to fight more, but she knows she needs food. People are also speculating, including Magda, the lady that helped Poppy wash up and settle in on that first night. Now, when they pass the hall before they get to the dining room, Poppy sees all those that attacked her. Their bodies line the walls, their arms are outstretched. Spikes of bloodstone are nailed through their hands. Some had received a reddish brown stake through the center of their chest, others through the head. Some of them were mortal, some were Atlantean. A half a dozen of them on either side. She's seen a lot of them that were rendered unconscious. She even saw Mr. Tillis. This is someone that was given a chance, but he threw that away. Poppy's knees weaken as she stares up at him. He is dead, his face a ghastly grey color. He was immortal, but his stake is protruding from his steel chest nonetheless. All this man ever wanted was to save his last child. He was given an opportunity to do so, yet he chose hatred. This bothers Poppy, and Kaz knows. She's honest when they sit for dinner. She tells him, I actually don't feel all that bad about what you did to them. They didn't know me and they laughed when Jericho talked about cutting off my hand. They cheered when I bled and screamed and offered other options for pieces for Jericho to carve and keep. I've never even met most of them before, and they were happy to see me ripped apart, so I don't feel sympathy. But they're still mortal Atlantean, and they deserve dignity in that. So to this, Cass tells her they didn't believe he deserved any dignity. She says they were wrong, but that doesn't make this right. This is her understanding at this point. But Poppy is going to get to a place where she sees that people are really vile and they don't deserve dignity in that. Not all of them. She's still going to get to that point. The place where she's at right now is thinking, oh yeah, people deserve dignity even if they're so vile. Castile urges her to eat and tells her the plan is that they would leave for Atlantia the next day. He knows now that Poppy is half Atlantean, announces it to the table, explains her gifts, and the reason why Ascender would want her by the 19th, her 19th birthday. She's already in the calling. She's in the calling phase, 19 to 21. That's the age where you get all the abilities of an Atlantean. You're stronger, you're faster, you get fangs and all those things. Although she's half Atlantean, so she may never get fangs. That's what they're still speculating, meaning one parent is mortal and one is Atlantean, but her Atlantean part seems to be really strong. That is their speculation at this point. So they're speculating that the reason why the Ascended want her to use her for their rights, to make more Ascended. So the reason they're going to Atlantia, why Castiel is taking her home to Atlantia, he's taking her there so that they can get married on Atlantean soil. That's where it happens. And she's like, whoa. Everybody's like, whoa, dude, what's in your head? Okay, what's with the whole marriage thing? Apparently, marriage is his way of thinking, oh, I get to keep her and still get my brother. We're going to see all of this if we do another part of this story. I'm going to explain all of that. But y'all, this is the end. This is the end of From Blood and Ash. This was quite a lengthy episode, I know. But I think it's worth it. And I think it's fun. Okay, and the reason I allowed myself to make such a long episode, I haven't done this in a while, is because I'm only releasing once a week from now until maybe August, June, July or so. I'll start releasing 2 times a week. But for now, we have it. And I'm going to promote this episode baddest. I want to see at least 50 listens before I release the next episode with a new story. So thank you so much. And I really love the support you've been showing me so much. I'm so grateful. Thank you, Niver. All right, I'll see you. Bye.